guess what? Creativity is your superpower. Aloha and mahalo for joining me. I'm Janet and welcome to the Call to Create podcast. This is so exciting because today I get to talk about creativity and your superpower. And you know what? Have you ever heard anyone say that creativity is your superpower? Have you ever heard anyone say anything about your superpowers? Well, if not today, I want to talk about that specifically. I created this podcast because I want to talk about creativity and getting people to know that creativity is a gift and something you have to do. And I'm here to help you prepare and all the things that you need to do to have your own business if you want to start one and you're ready. And creativity is such a big part of that. Everything that we do is creative. And I know you're creative because we're all given the ability to create by God. But let's talk about creativity as a superpower for a little bit. Well, let's talk about these things. Now, did you ever think that there's a thing called creative problem solving? I think this episode's going to be a long one. I might have to break it up into two parts. But let me start by giving you the definition of creativity. So I was looking it up. Now, I personally know what I think the definition of creativity is, but I wanted to look it up online too and see what it said. And basically, the things that were given for definition was the use of the imagination or the creation of original ideas. And for me, that's how I've always thought about creativity. Creativity is deeper than just being creative in art or being able to draw and paint or anything like that. And I've talked a little bit about this in other episodes too, that creativity is more than just being creative in the art field. Creativity and creation, it's bringing something into existence that didn't exist in the physical world here that we live in. So it's really important that you think of creativity in a different way. And that's why I want to talk about how creativity is your superpower. And, also creativity and creation, it also includes things like your thoughts. You create your thoughts. It includes your feelings because you create and decide what kind of feelings you want to have. And then we also create our reality too. So everything here on this earth that we do and everything in existence is a creation. We create our lives. We create everything that you see around us is a creation. So think about that. Anytime you create something, it's going to happen by different ways. So some of the ways, if you like to make things, you know that you create by using materials. You use certain things, whether it's wire, fabric, felt, yarn, string. It could be that you draw, but it's taking what you have, the existing materials that already exist, and either transforming it into something else or using those materials and combining it to make something else with it. And that's what you do, is you're creating and you're in that creation mode. I value creativity a lot. And I really would be lost if I lost that gift of creativity, which I don't think I ever would, because my personal opinion is that God sent all of us here to earth with the ability to create. We create every day of our lives, but I believe to be true. And I'm speaking also because I've taught sewing for so many years as well. I've taught for 30 years. And I've taught art classes, and I've taught classes where we combine art and sewing together. So I've witnessed so many people of all ages. The youngest student I ever had was 7. And the oldest I had, I don't know, she must have been in her 70s or 80s. Of course, like I would never ask at that time, but she had the gray hair. So, I've seen creativity in so many ways. I've seen it exist in so many different people and ages. And it really taught me a lot. It really taught me about how people create, where they get their ideas from, where they get inspiration from to create something, and how some people just let the creativity flow. And then I've seen students who really don't allow that creativity to come through. They fight it. And then some of them don't even realize that they say words like, well, I'm not really creative, or I don't know, I don't think I can draw or paint, so that must mean that I'm not creative. And I've heard all kinds of things from people of all ages, because I've also taught boys too. So it's really interesting that when you think you're not creative, it has nothing to do with age or gender or anything like that. Of course, I've talked before about where our negative self talk comes from, but I just want to remind you that you are creative. You were given this amazing power to create, just like we can create babies. That's like a major creation. And we are just given this superpower. And I call it a superpower because I feel like that is one of my superpowers, that I can create really easily. Things just come to me quickly and easily, all these ideas. And sometimes they just keep coming and coming and flowing into my thoughts. And I have to write it down because if not, I'll forget. But that's because I've always done something creative. Sometimes it used to be on a daily basis that I was doing something creative. Now, creativity again doesn't just mean, drawing, painting, sewing, or things like that. It could be other areas where you're in the kitchen cooking. It could be where you're creating a story with words. It could be writing. Writing is a creation. So everything that we do is a creation. And I just want to talk about how if you can recognize that creativity is your superpower, then it would be so incredible to see what is possible with what you can do in your life and in the world. If you just take some time to look at all the things that have ever been created, like if you look at beauty in the world, if you look at nature and the sunsets and the sunrises, it's just amazing. Just creation and beauty exists everywhere. And for me and for all the other students that I've ever taught, they create because they love beauty too. When we create something, we love to see the beauty and the joy that it brings when we look at our creation. Nobody ever sets out to create something ugly. I mean, unless it's for Halloween, that's a whole different story. But in general, we create because we love to see beauty, and it just brings us this joy that you can't explain. And I'm sure if you feel like that, you understand what I'm saying. So I want to remind you that creativity is your superpower. And if you can remember that every day, your life will just evolve into this amazing experience, and your life will become amazing. So think about that. Write down what you are so good at when it comes to creating. What is your superpower in the creativity area? And, I'm pretty sure that you have many more superpowers. But what about creativity and creating? What is it that you are so good at that you don't even have to think about it and you just do it? It just comes naturally. And people have said, wow, that's amazing that you made that or you created that or anything like that. I'm pretty sure you've had someone in your life say things like that. And I want you to remember that. Write it down so that you can see that if you have hard days, sometimes, some days we are going to have hard days, that you can look back at all these things that people have said about your creativity or your creation. And I want to get back to this thing called creative problem solving that I mentioned in the beginning. And I don't know if you've ever heard anybody talk like that, but creative problem solving is so powerful because you think outside of the box, and not only thinking outside of the box, but you also figure out what you have in the box that you can use to create, to problem solve. And, when you come into hard situations in your life, I'm pretty sure there's a moment where you have used creative problem solving. Like, let me use the example of like when you were a kid. Were you one of those that you were able to get creative in what you said? Like, say, for example, you did something and you got in trouble and your parents caught you and they were giving you scoldings. Were you one of those where you were able to figure out what to say and get yourself out of that situation? Think about that. I think I might have done that a time or two. I don't know if that got me into more trouble trying to, be creative with what I was saying. But creative problem solving is something that is so, so powerful when it's used correctly. Use creative problem solving where it can really help you in your life. And if you have a business, it can help you in your business. And you just have to think about going beyond what you see right in front of you. Because, like I was mentioning, creativity and creation is all about taking pieces of things that exist and putting it together or transforming it. So that's what you can use for problem solving. What is the problem that exists? And how can you take other things that exist and put it together or combine it or, things like that. But I wanted to just really talk about your superpower. But I just really wanted to drive home that creativity is your superpower. And I want you to think about that today. Write down in a notebook, like I always say, about how you think creativity is your superpower. Do you know it's your superpower? Ask yourself these questions. And I'll be back next week to talk more about creativity and your superpower. But I know you can do this because you have worth and value, and what you do matters. And please share this podcast with anyone who you know would get great value out of listening to it, especially if you know that they're thinking about starting their own business. Or even if they're not, there's still great value that I share in each episode that can bring value to women, even if they aren't interested in starting their own business. And please rate and review this podcast. I would appreciate it. And thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Aloha.